the awards banquet program now. And we're going to start the evening off with a recognition of this year's board of directors. They're sitting right here, right in front of me. I'd like to, and over here at this other table. So I'm going to start by acknowledging past president Mark Pavick. I'm just so thankful that Mark, there is a past president, because, you know, when Mark was president, I'm like, I don't know if I caught all that. So thank you, Mark. It's been great working with you. And now you're leaving the board, and he's got his thumbs up, but I know he had a good time too. And also Vice President Jeff Miller, who will now be your president. I've enjoyed working with Jeff so much. He's got so much great insight and energy for this association, and I think you're going to really enjoy it when he's your president. And Secretary Darren Hogginson. That's only one of his hats. He's also section chair. Oh, you're not that anymore. He's also section chair for 2 sections. Darren's really amazing, and you know, he's on top of everything. Thank you so much, Darren. Treasurer Brett Nedrow had to leave early. He had some big shoes to fill this year with Larry stepping down as treasurer. Directors, Ryan Barrett. Ryan will be back up here a little later on this evening. And of course, Tina Brandt. She's my fashion inspiration. Brian Charlton. Dennis Halterman. Dennis, you'll see more of Dennis. Sastri Jayanti. And Addie Waxman, she's going to be departing the board this year. We've really enjoyed having you, Addie. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Chair of the Finance and Endowment Committee is Larry Hiller and Brett Nedrow. And Larry has also been the strategic advisor of the PAA this year. Thank you, Larry. You bring us knowledge of procedures, institutional history, and of course, your wit and wisdom. So now I'd like to call up to the podium Samuel Essa, AJPR editor. Is Samuel here? Oh, there he is.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Before I begin, I would like to recognize the outstanding editorial board of this society. The editorial board members have been working tirelessly to make sure that we have a quality journal, and they have really done so. In fact, I want to announce here that our journal has now reached a very high peak of impact factor of 2.23 at this time. And it's all due to the hard work of the editorial board. Thank you very much, and I recognize them. At this point in time, what we now do is that we have sections in our journal: genetics, physiology, production, protection, and others. So what we do is every year, for every section, we try to award plaques for the outstanding paper, and then certificates for the co-authors. And so to begin with, I'll start with the first section, which is breeding and genetics. Now for breeding and genetics, the outstanding paper was awarded by the title Making Hybrids with the Wild Potato Solanum jamesi, and this was won by John Bamberg. John, thank you. Yeah. John will have give a short, brief summary of his paper.
I'll just say a couple of words. Can you hear me? I'll just say a couple of words about my co-authors. First of all, I live and work about 200 miles from campus, so pretty isolated. Don't have much chance to work with students, but some of you might remember that I've brought some students who are not necessarily grad students, but like summer workers that are going to college different places. So one of our co-authors on this paper is Abe Kaler, who is a Princeton student who was a local guy home for the summer, and he just really got onto this project and collected the data and analyzed it. So that's a real success story. A lot of fun for me that I get to be a mentor to students. So Abe was the second author. Also Dave Douches. This paper was working with, making hybrids, like Samuel said, and you'd think that if you had two parents and you had a cross, you'd say, oh, that's obviously the hybrid, right? But with Dave's cooperation, you can take the one parent and the other parent, and you have this hybrid, and you wonder, is it really a hybrid? But you have 1,000 markers that are AA, and you have 1,000 markers in this parent that are BB, and when you get the result, those 1,000 markers are all AB, and that's kind of, wow, that's beautiful. So that Dave and his crew, and also Will Bailey. Will, where are you? Yeah, Will Bailey. He's working on this too with us, and really appreciate the feedback. Finally, this is the 30th anniversary. Alfonso, stand up. The 30th anniversary of my long-term colleague and co-author. So some of you know how great it is to have a colleague like that full of great ideas and can do everything, right? So I really appreciate Alfonso working with us. The last thing I'll say is that I think I was just like a new college student or something with aspirations to be a research scientist, and I was talking to somebody else and said, oh yeah, I want to be a researcher. And this guy said, no, I want to be an engineer because I want to fix things and I want to build things. And I thought, oh shoot, you mean I can't fix and build things as a researcher? I thought, well, I'm going to fix and build things anyway. A lot of you know, okay, all you breeders, you fix and build things, right? But this paper happened to be one of those cases where rather than just finding something out, right, some new knowledge, we actually made a tool for sharing with all of you as you're interested and bringing in these exotic species more efficiently. So that was very gratifying about this paper, to be able to actually build something. So I really appreciate the vote of confidence. Thank you very much.
Now for the co-authors, I'm giving your certificates to John.
Okay.
For the co-authors. The next paper award is for the outstanding paper for extension, production, and management. And it was titled Potato Nitrogen Response and Soil Microbial Activity as Affected by Fumigation. This paper was won by James E. Grants. The co-authors are Carl Rosen, Linda Kinkel, Jose Pablo, Andrew Robinson, and Neil C. Gosmestad. James will receive the plaque, and his co-authors will get their certificates.
Do you want to say the first? I'll say the first few words. So there were a lot of co-authors on this, and half of them are here tonight. I do want to say that when Samuel sent the email to me, I was thrilled and honored to get it. Jim did a lot of the writing, so I felt that he should be getting the main award. But it was a true collaboration between NDSU and University of Minnesota, plant pathology and soil science. And yeah, so it was really exciting for us to receive this award, and we're very honored. The paper was about trade-offs. It was about fumigation, which improved soil, plant health, better root systems. So we also got better nitrogen use efficiency, which is a good thing. Less leaching, better utilization of the nitrogen. But then on the other hand, we also affected microbial activity significantly, at least from a temporary standpoint. And it kind of laid the groundwork for our current soil health project. So that's what the paper is about. I do want to thank the editorial board for nominating and giving us this award. And we had a lot of discussions today about submitting papers to the American Journal of Potato Research. This is a good reason to do that. So we need more papers. So Jim, do you want to say a few words?
I just wanted to add that I wanted to thank our field crew and Matt McNerney. Without the hard work in the field, we don't have the data to analyze and write papers about, and it really can be pretty brutal work out there. And I also wanted to thank reviewer number 3. We're not sure who you are. We have some theories, but you are just a gift to to us as writers. Yeah. So whoever you are, thank you very much.
For the co-authors.
Yeah.
Your certificates.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sure. The next award goes to the outstanding paper for plant protection. It was titled Diversity and Pathogenicity of Pectobacterium Species Responsible for Causing Soft Rot and Black Leg of Potato in the Columbian Basin. This paper was won by Kenneth E. Frost. Frost is not here at this moment for a lot of other pressing issues. He can't be here. So let's give him a hand of applause and his co-authors. Now the fourth paper for physiology award was titled Impact of Early Potato Desiccation Method on Crop Growth, Skinning Injury, and Storage Quality Maintenance. This paper was authored by Fernanda Zuas-Kupek. Co-authors are Peter J. Dittmer, Stephen A. Sargent, Lincoln Zottelari, and Diane Roland. Again, they couldn't be here, and so we have mailed their plaques and certificates to them. But let's give them a hand of applause. So like Carl mentioned, you can see that there's a big advantage in putting papers into the American Journal of Potato Research. Before I step down, I would like to implore that at least every scientist in this room will submit at least one paper a year into our journal to improve it up. So thank you very much. And then once again, thank you to the editorial board.
Thanks so much, Sam. It's so much rewarding work to be on the editorial committee. I know it's a lot of work, but you do get to see a lot of really interesting things, and the journal is really the heart of our scientific work here at the PAA. At this point, I'd like to recognize some more of the people that really participated in the board. So one of the things that we did differently this year was and everybody that participated in the voting will know this, that the section chairs became voting members of the board. And I think this is a recognition for the work that they do on the board and helping us, make decisions and so forth. And as you heard, a lot of our work in the PAA is divided into sections. So I'd like to recognize Section Chair Josh Parsons. Josh is our Section Chair for Breeding and Genetics. For Extension, Production and Management, Cassia Dulman. Plant Protection, Jamie Wilbur. Physiology, Darren Hagginson. And also Utilization and Marketing, Darren Hagginson. Certification Section Chair Eric Beyer was not able to attend, but I think we should give him a round of applause. And I'd also like to send out a big congratulations and thank you to new directors Jacob Blauer and Julie Pashy. It's great to stand up for office in the PAA, and I thank everybody who has done so. It's really it really keeps the organization going, and it's the lifeblood to have people's participation. I'd also right now like to recognize the PAA staff. Angela Richardson. She is You've seen Angela all over the place this week because she's out there putting out the fires for us. She's out there helping us figure out where we need to go, what we need to do, and I couldn't have functioned as president without her, and I'm sure the past presidents would agree that, since we've had AMR as our managing company, we've really had tremendous service from Angela as our executive director of our association. So thank you, Angela. Erin Grebe is our association manager. You've seen her at the front desk. You've seen her demonstrate the wonderful merchandise that she participated in designing. She's creative. She's got a great sense of humor. And we really appreciate her enthusiasm. So thank you, thank you, Erin. Erin McLaughlin, our event manager, and organizer, was not able to come, but she's also been critical to this evening, and really to all the phase shifts that we had to do, planning the online conferences and participating in the Winnipeg conference. So thank you, Erin McLaughlin. And also at AMR is the Vera Moore, who's the VP Operations, who oversees some of our financial reporting and all of those sorts of things. You know, Vera's not here either, but we really would like to recognize her and appreciate her efforts. So, right now, we have a very exciting time during the evening, and that's the Frank L. Haynes Graduate Student Award competition. And I'd like to call on Paul Bethke. Are you here, Paul? There you are. Please come on up, Paul.
Get organized. Good evening, everyone. I was reminded last evening about this time when I was talking to Mary Lemaire about the advantages of simply saying yes to professional opportunities. Even if you're not sure you're qualified, even if you're kind of afraid, you just step up and do it. And this year, we had 26 graduate students step up and do it. 24 that were here, 2 online. And I think that's wonderful that they've gotten the message already, that the way you get ahead, the way you demonstrate your worth, and the way you learn is to take a chance and put yourself in front of others. So I am thrilled to have the opportunity to talk about this graduate student program, the Frank L. Haynes Graduate Student Award. What did we see? It was crazy what those students were talking about. I've got some notes. We heard about optimized seed size and row spacing between row distance and to maximize grower return, very practical. We heard about aerial imaging to predict tuber yield and manage nitrogen fertility, futuristic stuff. Developing tools to combat established and emerging pathogens, something we always have to worry about. Advanced breeding techniques to use for tetraploids, diploids, and ways to use wild species. And characterizing and quantifying skin quality and tuber defects. Lots of breath, lots of excitement. I mean, we should all be doing these things. Okay, so with that, the huge range of student activities, student interests, and the high quality of the presentations, we needed judges. Angela sent out a note, or Aaron sent out a note, would someone like to volunteer to be a judge? And of course, this being the organization it is, almost overnight we had 14 volunteers. That's wonderful. Many organizations, it's a little hard to find volunteers. So the judges for this year's competition, we have Dennis Halterman, who's been on the committee for many, many years. From USDA, we had Jay Howe, University of Maine, Rhett Spear, Derek Herman, and two new members of the committee, and that I actually want to point out in particular. Gustavo Teixeira, where are you? Gustavo, University of Idaho, attending his very first PAA meeting. So we'll give him a warm welcome. And then Munawar Dagramisi. Munawar Dagramisi, where are you? Where are you? Attending your very first in-person PAA meeting. Okay, so let's move on to our 5 awardees. In 5th place, for a presentation on establishing an efficient and economic diploid production scheme, we have Tanis Anderson. Are you here? Who is too bashful to attend? Oh, there you are. Come on up. Fantastic. Welcome to the podium.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I ask you about your presentation?
Sure.
So you were working on diploid breeding strategies, extracting dihaploids, and in your abstract you said something very interesting.
Okay.
Well, you said it, not me. You said, I think that diploids will be very useful for research, but maybe tetraploids for production.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Would you like to expand on that? What was your thinking behind that?
Well, in all my poster presentations I've had so far, I have farmers come up to me and they're like, well, how is this going to affect me? And I know they're comfortable at that tetraploid level, so I always say, well, if we can fix things at the diploid level and get it back up there for tetraploids where we have a infrastructure in place, then maybe you'll want to use our diploids, but they'll be back at the tetraploid level. I don't know. That's kind of gotta keep them comfortable.
That's an excellent explanation. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Got to keep everybody happy. I love that. In fourth place, for a presentation on development and validation of a cask assay for the late blight resistance gene RB, we have Peyton Sorensen. Peyton, where are you? Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you had a very focused project,
Part of it, yeah.
right? The part you talked about.
Yes.
Right? So can you maybe share with everybody why developing a marker for RB is useful?
I guess I believe very strongly in stacking resistance genes. And to be able to stack resistance genes, you need effective markers, especially ones that are efficient. I've performed one-to-many gel electrophoresis and PCR, and the idea of using the CAS platform and being able to do 96 up to 1,500 samples at once is incredibly appealing. So I think marker-assisted selection is a great benefit in the future of breeding for disease resistance.
It doesn't hurt that you're working with a disease marker for late blight resistance,
Yes.
something we have struggled for 20 years to introduce,
Yes.
and this will make it easier.
Hopefully, that is the goal.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Our third place awardee for a novel methods to induce sprouting and in dormant potato tubers is Nathan Gellis. That was awesome. You got applause from your fan club and you tried to murder your major professor. Awesome.
Punishment for making me
Yeah,
do this.
yeah, absolutely, right? Nathan, so you were breaking dormancy and you were finding that smoke, or smoke in GA, was very efficient. What the heck? What is this smoke?
Well, first of all, it's just fun to say that I get to smoke potatoes for
Right?
work.
I mean, some people do hams and stuff, you're doing
Yep,
potatoes.
yep. Meat's always good, so
Did you
No.
ever put some like meat in the smokers with the potatoes?
we don't have the flavored pellets, and
Okay.
we haven't tried other flavors yet.
All right,
So
good.
that's my future studies.
Okay. So explain though, why smoke is it to try and remove dormancy from potatoes? It seems very strange.
It is a very strange concept. It kind of came to us when a stellar burned down, and these seed growers didn't know if it was going to grow the next year, so they didn't sell it, and then they were able to plant a couple of those seeds back, and it worked very well. So we're looking at that and just trying to explore what's happening with it.
So your advice would be to like sabotage sellers here and there to see what comes from that.
It could be beneficial for
It could
everybody.
be beneficial for everyone.
Insurance and good seed.
All right, you gotta go. That was very nice talking to
Thank
you.
you so much.
We may have to erase that part of the recording. In second place, for a presentation on powdery scab of potato, expanding genomic resources for the pathogen and the host, is Abigail Moore. Abigail? She was here earlier. She left. She missed out. Okay, so this is what I was going to tell her. Right? Everyone else gets a roast, sort of. So when the committee met, everybody said, wow, that was such a good presentation. Like they were really like, wow, that person is so poised, they spoke so well, they explained concepts that were difficult very clearly, and she chose to work on an unculturable organism that people don't know anything about, which either shows great confidence or bad advising. Would anyone like to comment on that? Which brings us to the winner of this year's Frank L. Haynes Graduate Student Competition, who presented a paper on assessing genome by environment interactions and alleles mediating environment in the National Processing Trials, Hussein Aga. Congratulations, Hussein. It's a great honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you win, there's two things. One, you can't compete again.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's ideal, right? And you have a high percentage of being here 20 years later. Am I right? Yeah, right? So think about that. So I think, tell us why you chose your project and talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we were looking at this was actually Texas had done this really interesting paper where they genotyped all their lines and they were looking at the diversity within their breeding program. And we were thinking, oh, we could do something similar with like our stuff. And then I said, nah, let's just do everything, right? We got all this data, so let's just look at everything and look at diversity. And what's interesting about this data set? Well, we've got 10 locations. You know, the environment's changing. We got to be able to breed for potatoes in hotter places or drier places. So are we doing that now? Was kind of the motivating question. And it turns out we might be. And we might be seeing some QTL that actually do mediate the environment. And which is, yeah, I mean, it's important to find those things and be able to breed for, potatoes that perform better in different places.
Yeah. So in one way, you're looking at stability of traits. Another way, you're pre-looking for adaptation to climate change.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
John Lundin, are you here? So remember years ago when we talked about, gosh, we should get all this data online so people can use it? Here's the people. Congratulations again.
Thank you, man.
And thank you to all the people who competed and to the judges and to you.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's always a treat when Paul does these presentations, and students always know that you will have that treat if you win. So I encourage you to continue. I congratulate all the students. What an amazing group, and all your efforts. It's awesome. So what I'd like to ask is if Paul and the students could gather together, and we'll take a photo at the end of the banquet. So we'll gather somewhere in that corner over there. Okay, so this is a very special time. We have developed a special award this year, and I'd like to ask Tina Brandt to come on up and tell us about it.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to see you all in person. I have the very fine honor of presenting a special award tonight on behalf of all of you, the Potato Association of America. As you know, we have had a long history of exciting and wonderful auctions And really what's brought us all together, there's been kind of a showpiece on these, particularly of late, and that would be the work by Carol Halseth. She has produced, well, actually, let me start right now by explaining that Carol is unable to attend, but Carolyn and her husband Don are at home, hopefully watching this, and they really wish that they could be here tonight. It is very special that this award be given in Montana, as this is the home state of Carol Halseth. So this award is presented for her outstanding work in supporting the PAA endowments. The financial contributions that came as a result of her work are actually astounding. And because I'm at PAA, I would be extremely remiss if I did not share some statistics. So let me tell you, Carol has produced 15 quilts for this organization. She started in 2007, and she continued even through the pandemic to produce quilts. These quickly became very popular and a focus of the meetings. She started in 2007 in Idaho Falls, and as you know, she produced one for 2022 in Missoula. She has this unique ability to incorporate potatoes along with the theme of the host meeting site. So she has brought in the geography and the culture of the area combined with our favorite thing, potatoes. So her artistry and work has really been a highlight for most of us at this meeting. So along those lines, she has produced 15 quilts, 5 table runners, and more than $60,000 for the organization. Yeah. So she is getting a plaque, which is everybody knows is a fantastic thing to get. But she's also receiving a photo journal of her work that showcases all of her quilts, including this year's. This is the back of which shows all of the quilts. But one of the things that we were able to do with the help of Don was to show the quilts in the photographs by year, and then we were able to solicit and got great feedback from the very lucky people who were the winning members of the elite group that got the quilts. So I think those statements really reflect. There was a very unanimous sentiment that came with them. And Rich, Novi, and I would like to quote you just a little bit. "We feel so fortunate to own a Carol Halseth original, and that we had admired her quilting work over the many years of attendance of the annual meetings, and it provides us with fond memories of the PAA over the years, as contributed so much of her time, her talents to the PAA and its fundraising for the endowment. We are very happy that she has received this much-deserved recognition with a Distinguished Service Award. So please join me in thanking Carol."
Carol, I do hope you've been able to tune in at home. We've been thinking about you all week, and thank you, Tina, for that wonderful tribute. It's really amazing what the quilts have done for our organization, and now the Frank L. Haynes Endowment Fund is self-sustaining for the awards for the students, and so we really do have a lot to thank Carol for, and for the students to know that it's the efforts of this woman who have brought us to this point with the awards. We're coming up on a very special time for the banquet, and that's the recognition of past and new honorary life members, and I call up past President Mart Pavic.
Good evening. Just want to make sure all the awards are there. PAA recognizes outstanding contributions to the potato industry by awarding individuals with the Honorary Life Member Award. This is the highest award bestowed upon an individual in the PAA. Each year this award is presented to deserving individuals nominated and elected by their peers, and is considered by many the highlight of the annual PAA banquet. Because of our last two conferences, which were virtual, the 2020 and the 2021 HLMs accepted their awards virtually, and I'd like to recognize them tonight because they were not in a banquet setting. So in 2020 we had Shelley Jansky, John Keeling, Jeff Stark, and Richard Valou. And in 2021 we had William Bull, David Douchis, Stephen Johnson, and Robert K. Thornton. We have two of those HLMs here tonight. William Bull and Robert K. Thornton, will you please stand up? Thank you for your service to the potato industry and the PAA. Now at this time I wish to recognize all HLMs, not only here, but also those that are not able to attend. So those in attendance, please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Good job, guys. Thanks. Okay, so tonight we have four guests that are worthy of this award tonight, and I will first call up the nominator, and then the nominator will give you a little bit more information on each award winner. So we'll start off with Brian Charlton for Russ Ingham. Brian, come on up, man. So each nominator will briefly tell you about the award winner, and then we'll have the HLMs come on up. In this case, Russell is not here tonight, so Brian will fill in for that role as well.
So a little correction, I'm the stand-in for Phil Hom. Most of you old-timers in the PAA know Phil. It's a great pleasure that this might be the only time that I get to speak over Phil instead of waiting for Phil to talk. And so I am excited to read his nomination here, and then we'll fill in at the end. So this is Phil. It's a great pleasure to nominate Dr. Russ Ingham as an honorary life member in the Potato Association of America. I've known Dr. Ingham for at least 35 years, even before my research and extension responsibilities included potatoes. During the last 30 years of my career, when I did have potato responsibilities, Dr. Ingham and I worked extensively as he led the efforts to manage nematodes in the Columbia Basin production areas of Oregon and Washington. His accomplishments led to his promotion to associate and then full professor at Oregon State. He started his career at Oregon State in 1985, replacing the longtime nematologist Harold Jensen. While Dr. Ingham had all crop responsibility for nematode management in Oregon, he spent a considerable amount of time dealing with nematodes in crops in the very important and highly productive region of the Columbia Basin, but not forgetting areas like where I'm from, known as the other areas, production areas in Oregon. While potatoes are the interest of the PAA, potato growers also produce many other crops: onions, carrots, corn, and other susceptible rotational crops to the same nematode species that cause damage in potatoes. Therefore, managing destructive nematodes in these crops could benefit many potato producers. His curriculum vitae lists numerous scientific papers, presentations to colleagues and grower groups, while mostly dealing with potato production, but also these other rotational crops as well. Dr. Ingham's curriculum vitae is extensive, related to potatoes, and here is a quick count that Phil had generated for Russ. These include topics on research related to Meloidigani chitwoodi, Columbia root knot nematode, Paratrichodorus alias, stubby root nematodes, Pretilencus penetrans, root lesion, and the new species that was discovered in the Central Oregon region, a cyst nematode. All significant risks regardless of where potatoes are grown. He authored or co-authored 15 refereed journal articles, 14 extension publications and special reports, 18 research reports published in conference proceedings, and at least 37 professional abstracts, 11 presentations at professional meetings, departmental presentations, or at chemical conferences. These numbers do not include the important work that Dr. Ingham did related to nematode management in these other rotational crops. While these numbers show an impressive effort directed to potatoes, they do not really provide the impact that his work had on potato producers. So this one example, just one example, would be his efforts to manage corky ring spot disease. This is a viral disease spread by a nematode. Until about 1990, really wasn't considered a big issue in the Columbia Basin of Oregon and Washington. But with the removal of a nematicide referred to as temic, this disease suddenly became a significant issue with production losses in that region. Apparently unknown, it also controlled the nematode vector in potatoes in fields throughout the basin. And as the crop became more damaged, there was lots of rejections due to this. The total extent of the damage was not known for several years until potato growers had rotated back to these fields, attempting to grow potatoes without the use of temic. Dr. Ingham led these efforts with colleagues, potato and chemistry industry professionals to solve this that probably saved millions of dollars for that industry. Russ's involvement with the PAA Association was extensive. He was a member of the plant pathology section as well as served as a longtime reviewer for the journal. I didn't take the time to count the large number of abstracts that he authored or co-authored that were presented at PAA annual meetings, but enough to say that he was vested with attending and participating. Another notable involvement with the PAA was his involvement with Russ as they co-chaired the 2010 PAA that was hosted by Oregon and Corvallis. During the many decades that Dr. Ingham worked at Oregon State University, he clearly has been a significant supporter of potato producers to the degree of helping them keep financially viable. Clearly from the responses that we've heard throughout the Northwest and across the country, growers and fieldmen look forward to hearing from the latest from his research efforts on how to manage nematodes effectively and, more important, a cost-effective way. He dedicated much of his career to potato production. He was not only done with important and necessary work to support this industry, but made certain through various means that the new information generated was able to reach those audiences for our producers. He's been an important component to the annual PAA meeting, made the annual meeting in Corvallis a success, both scientifically and financially. And thinking about what constitutes an HLM and the PAA, Dr. Ingham clearly fits that criteria, and Phil and us who were supporting nominees for him give him our highest recommendation.
I'd like to present this to Russell Ingham via Brian Charlton. Let's give him a So Russ has a response here. I didn't know. Brian, go ahead and read that. Sorry.
I was heard to make this quick, but these are sometimes are a lifetime of achievements, and we want to make sure they're recognized. But Russ had sent this to me, and he said, I would like to thank the Potato Association of America for honoring me with the Honorary Life Member Award. I would also like to thank all those who wrote letters in my support. This was totally unexpected, and I'm deeply humbled by this recognition. It's ironic when one considers that when the job announcement for a nematologist to work on potatoes in Idaho came about, that I did not even apply. I'd thought, how could somebody work on potatoes for their entire career? So those of you who know Saad Hafez, he took the position in Idaho, and some years later, Russ was hired by Oregon State University. Once there, he was quickly introduced to nematode issues on potatoes by several of our senior faculty at the university. Now, here we are, where I have had research plots on nematodes on potatoes in each of the last 35 years, with more cooperators than I could count. Not only has the research been intellectually stimulating, but I also made some great friends over the years. So let this be a reminder not to dismiss opportunities too quickly. We never know where our future lies. Thanks to all who allowed me the opportunities to work on potatoes.
Thank you, Brian. Our next award winner is Gregory Porter, and Hanton will come up and say a few words about him and then invite Gregory up.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening, everyone. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Gregory Porter, Professor of Agronomy and Potato Breeder in the School of Food and Ag at the University of Maine, as one of the honorees for the 2022 PAA Honorary Life Member. In the nomination process, Jay Howe and I had overwhelming support, garnering letters from across the world of potato, which I think exemplifies the significant impacts Greg's work has had on all aspects of potato research, agronomy, the PAA, as well as the potato industry in his almost 40-year career. A Mainer at heart with deep ties to all things potatoes, Greg has certainly embodied the passion and the art of what makes an acceptable potato, coupled with his generosity, humility, and dedication to make the potato world a collaborative, supportive, and welcoming space for all. As a friend and colleague for the past few years, there has been countless times when I personally sought Greg's wisdom and experience, which he always provided without hesitation. And just to end it shortly, Greg's achievements are too numerous to list, but suffice to say that his contributions to the Maine potatoes, as well as the industry, will be felt for many years to come. And the Eastern Potato Group will have very big shoes to fill after Greg retires next year. So thank you again to the HLM Award Committee, letter writers, and the PAA. Please help me in inviting and celebrating Dr. Greg Porter on stage. Congratulations, Greg.
Well, I'm really pleased and honored to receive this award. In many ways, it's sort of like the Cooperstown of North American potato industry research and extension. So I really want to thank the PAA and especially thank my colleagues for nominating me for this award. If you have a chance to read, you'll see that I provide quite a bit of service to the PAA over the years. But it in no way matches what I've gotten out of being part of the PAA. You know, from west, Hillers and Thorntons, and east to Halseths and Henningers, and everywhere in between, there's just been a constant supply of support from individuals from this organization. Some of you who know me would know some of these things, but many of you don't. So I just want to tell you a little bit about myself very briefly. And that, like many of you in this room, I love potatoes. Big surprise, right? But I also like the outdoors. I like fishing, especially fly fishing. I like lobster. I'm from Maine. I've been known to have a beer once in a while, which I like a lot, but I also like history a little bit. And so in my words today, I just want to tell you a little bit about my history and about the importance of PAA to my history and my career. Before I do that, I don't want to forget to thank my wife for all the support. Eileen couldn't be here. She attended PAA meetings sporadically through my career, and she always enjoyed them. But we divided and conquered. While I was running off to potato fields all the time, she took care of her career. Our two daughters picked food from the garden that I planted in a silly way every year and then disappeared to plant potatoes and do other things. So Eileen deserves a lot of credit for the constant support. And I also want to thank my colleagues at the University of Maine and all the staff that have helped me get this work done over the years. So back to history a little bit. I attended my first PA meeting 41 years ago at Charlottetown PEI. And like a number of people in this room, I entered a paper in the graduate student competition, and I won an award. So I hope that many of you have the opportunity for so many years of interactions in the PAA and belonging in the PAA and working on the great crop of potatoes like I've been fortunate to have. Other aspects of history I'd like to tell you about is that I grew up on a potato farm in northern Maine, a family farm that was established in the 1840s when that area was being cleared and settled, and a farm that's still in business today. And I learned a lot growing up on the family farm, a little bit more on that in a minute or two. But some of the things working on the farm that I did were plant potatoes. It's very stony there, the soil, so picking rocks, pretty exciting start to a person's career. I did a number of things, sprayed all the crop for a number of years when I was in college. But one of my earliest memories was picking potatoes at about the age of 6 years old in the 1960s. That was before mechanization had really taken over in that area. It was being introduced, and it took over quite quickly. But at that time, the potatoes were laid out on the ground with a potato digger, and then large crews of people, often families, would come through, and they'd pick into wooden baskets and dump those wooden baskets into wooden barrels that would be hauled off the fields. Well, I've been in research, and this is my 38th year of research potato crop at the University of Maine. What do I do in the spring? I plant potatoes, I pick rocks, the fields are still rocky. What do I do in the fall? We lay out research plots on the ground, we bend over and we pick them up by hand into wooden boxes and into paper bags. So in many ways, I haven't really progressed much in life. But in some ways I have, of course. And one of the things I would share with you is that I had two brothers, and it was the intention of all three of us to go back and farm with my father. And he said, well, that's great. I wouldn't want to force you to do this. This is a tough way to make a living. But if you want to, I'll support you. But you need to get an education. The world is an uncertain place, and an education can't be taken away from you. So there I was in my undergraduate career studying soil science, planning to go back and farm. And through a series of pest problems, climate, changing markets, and an economic farm crunch, the farm had to contract. So I got a call from the family back home, and my mother said, things aren't going well here, and your older brother is going to be able to stay part-time, but you and your younger brother have got to find a new career. That's a lot to adjust to, but one of my key advisors back at the University of Maine was a fellow named Hugh Murphy. And a few of you, probably some of those of you that have been around a long time, knew Hugh Murphy, and he seemed like a pretty gruff guy if you first met Hugh. But he had a heart of gold, and he gave and gave to this institution. The PAA was something he worked for so many years, and he was that way with students. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he said, you know, Greg, there are really good careers in agricultural research and extension, and I think you'd be good at it. And in order to do that, you got to go to graduate school, and I'll give you a master's assistantship to do that. So he took me under his wing. That got me started on my career. My master's field work was done under the guidance and direction of Hugh Murphy's first in command at Aristic Research Farm, Lee Morrow. So there's two PAA Honorary Life members that influenced my very early research career, both extremely helpful to me. While working there, I met Al Reeves, potato breeder for the for the University of Maine. Was a really awesome guy. I wasn't involved in potato breeding, but I learned a lot from him. He was just a wonderful guy to interact with. So my career got started because of PAA members and their ability to mentor and give. So I did go get a PhD, and I luckily landed a career back at the University of Maine. And I had I think a pretty good career going in crop management, soil management, variety development, working with a lot of really good people. I'd done that job for about 22 years. Sharp turn occurred. Al Reeves had passed away unexpectedly, our potato breeder, about 5 years before. And university, for 5 years, hired a very fine PhD scientist to pick up the slack and keep the program going. That was Sinaida Ganga. And when she left, administrators at the University of Maine said, potato breeding's too expensive. We just can't support this program anymore. They happened to be environmental science, forestry background people in our college administration at the time. Well, I went to them and I argued. Explained to them the importance of potato breeding, how important it was to land-grant universities that serve large potato industries. Well, not very sympathetic. They said, you think it's so important, you're going to have to lead it. Oh my word. I was trained as an agronomist and as a physiologist, and I had worked with potato breeders for many years. I went home and I talked it over with my wife, and we talked about how this would affect my career, and I explained how important I thought it was, and we agreed to do it. So 15 years ago, I took a sharp turn away from my agronomy program and agreed to lead the University of Maine potato breeding program. Well, as I said, I'd interacted a lot with potato breeders. I'd worked in potato variety development, but I really wasn't trained to lead a potato breeding program. So where do you think I turned? Of course, to PAA members. And you'll recognize some of these key people that I got guidance and advice on when I made that adjustment in my career. This first set are all PAA Life members. Many of you will recognize the names. Kathy Haynes, Henry DeYoung, Richard Tarn, Dave Douches, Dave Holm, Creighton Miller. All provided valuable guidance to me getting started in this change of career. And then since then, PA colleagues Craig Yencho, Walter DeYoung, Susie Thompson, Rich Novi, to name a few, have been key members allowing me to be successful making that change in my career. And now, with expertise from new colleagues such as Jeff Endelman, we're adding genomic selection procedures into our breeding program. And so there's always room to learn, and there's been so much help for me and many others from colleagues in the Potato Association. So I hope this history lesson gives you a little bit of a viewpoint of the importance of PAA and the importance of mentoring people along the way, collaboration, and being flexible in your career. So with that, I just would say how appreciative I am to the PAA for the experience, relationships, and colleagues that I've had over the years, and I want to thank you so much for this great honor.
Congratulations, Greg. Okay, our next HLM is Kenneth Reichbost, and Brian Charlton will come up. He was his nominator, and Kenneth couldn't be here either, so Brian will read some notes about Kenneth.
Hello again. So I first met Ken as a summer student employee at the Klamath Experiment Station. when he hired me fresh out of high school and a few months prior to entering college. Ken's enthusiasm for potatoes imprinted on me and refocused my career trajectory. He was a mentor, a confidant, and a shining example of a scientist and advocate for irrigated agriculture. I can't express the gratitude I have for all he's done for me in my career, and I'm happy to nominate him for this, or provide the letter for this award. Ken was a career-long advocate for the potato growers of the United States and Canada. He not only did an exceptional potato management science, but he was also on the early bleeding edge of issues related to the interface of crop production and endangered species management. He was born in upstate New York, received his BS and MS degrees from Cornell in ag engineering and agronomy, respectively. He obtained a soil science PhD from Oregon State University in 1973 under the direction of Dr. Larry Boersma. His thesis research involved studies that were ahead of their time in the sense of exploring environmental impacts. He looked at cropping systems using waste heat from steam electrical plants to enhance plant growth by heating greenhouses and using subsurface line heat sources to enhance production. He investigated the contributions that fertilizers were making to groundwater pollution, and this early interest on the interface of crop production and the environment carried throughout his career. Following graduation, Ken took a job as a research associate with Cornell at its Long Island vegetable research farm. He investigated nitrogen fertilizer use efficiency on turf grass and potatoes, and in 1976 he took a job as a crop scientist with McCain Foods, an international potato growing and processing company. He did potato research and extension work in Maine and New Brunswick, Canada, while stationed in Florenceville, New Brunswick. He also had the responsibility for McCain agronomy programs in Europe. Evaluating long-term rotations and determining yield impacts of missing plants on tuber yield and quality were a major focus of his early career with McCain. His greatest impact, though, to McCain and the North American potato process industry came with his work with Shepity. He first evaluated F69016, which was the clone number for Shepity before the variety lease. It was released as a variety in 1978 and was amazed at its size and shape for making French fries. However, the clone performed poorly in multiple locations throughout the maritime region and was discarded from the program because of tendencies for misshapen tubers. Ken spent several years researching how to manage this clone for optimum yield, tuber size, and shape uniformity for processing. In addition, he researched best management practices for seed production as tubers tended to get very large. His efforts and research results played a major role in the eventual release of the variety as Shepity. His work with McCain prepared him for his job with Oregon State University. In 1987, he was named superintendent of the Klamath Experiment Station, which is now the Klamath Basin Research and Extension Center, and he served in that role until his retirement in 2003. Ken's contributions to the Pacific Northwest potato industry actually began before he assumed the position of superintendent that I just mentioned. The Treasure Valley of eastern Oregon and western Idaho at the time was having significant problems with sugar ants and russet Burbank. He networked with colleagues in that region to begin evaluating Shepity as it is less sensitive to environmental stresses related to temperature and moisture extremes common to the area. This early evaluation was quite successful, and Shepity eventually expanded in acreage. It's been said that the introduction of Shepity saved the processing industry in the Treasure Valley, and in some circles, Ken is still known as the shepherd of the Shepity. The Tri-State program was initiated about 3 years before he became superintendent at the research station in Klamath. He was extremely active in this program and initiated a redskin selection program in the Klamath Basin evaluating material that Mark's father, Dr. Joe Pavic, in Aberdeen, and Dr. Bob Johansson at NDSU. His efforts resulted in the release of multiple reds with the most successful being Modoc, which has been one of the main acreage reds besides the standards in recent years. He was quite active in other disciplines of traditional research related to potato production, investigated nitrogen fertilizer impacts, explored impacts of micronutrients, and ventured into issues of pest control, disease, and nematodes. While Ken was a peer and producer recognized for his agronomic work and insights, his greatest impacts in Oregon were likely in the area of providing a voice for agriculture and common sense in the water wars that ensued in the Klamath Basin in the early 90s and still continue to this day. He was a scientist and tried to explain with facts and figures the challenges that the local communities faced. He was a frequent editorial writer to the local paper and was sought as an information source by other scientists who were trying to find a solution to that water crisis. Those who follow endangered species activities will know that the water crisis there is still going and still unresolved. Ken was a pioneer in bringing perspectives to these issues and a common sense approach that must be sought after so that we can come to solutions. He joined the PAA in 1973 at the beginning of his career, working with potatoes. He authored and co-authored more than 25 journal manuscripts and a similar number of abstracts, served as the PAA as a manuscript reviewer and attended most of the annual meetings, and was a member until his retirement in 2005. His many contributions to the industry, a voice of reason and advocacy for irrigated agriculture in the West, are very deserving of this HLM award. And I do have a response. Greetings to the 2022 annual meeting of the PAA and the many friends and colleagues in the beautiful state of Montana. My apologies for not attending on this momentous occasion. The current status of our health concerns for travelers and the uncertain conditions at airports and on flights convinced me it was inadvisable to attempt the trip. I am truly humbled by your recognition of my contributions to the potato industry during a 33-year career in potato research. I always remember the words of Dr. Tom Jackson of Oregon State University as he wished me good luck in my 1973 assignment to Cornell's Long Island Vegetable Research Farm to investigate potato fertilization effects on groundwater nitrogen contamination. He said, "You will be working on the most interesting and challenging crop we grow," and how right he was. With no academic training in potato production, nor disease, insect, nematode, or climatic influences on the crop, Ken needed a lot of mentoring. Dr. Bob Cetus and Dr. Maury Semmel at Riverhead provided excellent training in his 3 years there. And during his 11 years in New Brunswick, Canada, his training was advanced under the guidance of Dr. Hugh Murphy, who Mr. Porter had mentioned, and Mr. Paul Eastman of Maine, Dr. Don Young of Ag Canada. A knowledge of the real world of potato production and processing was enhanced by close association with Harrison McCain and many excellent growers in New Brunswick and Maine. At Oregon State University, I had the privilege of working with Dr. Al Mosley, Dr. Mary Powelson, Dr. Russ Ingham, Mr. Oscar Gutbrod, who were all HLMs in this wonderful organization, and the very competent staff of 3 other branch stations. Close ties with the many folks among the Tri-State and Western Regional Variety Development Team complemented my education in the field. One of his most enjoyable times during his time at Klamath Falls was the annual screening of Single Hill first-generation seedlings from Dr. Joe Pavick and Mr. Bob Johansson's breeding programs. At Klamath Falls, he often hosted social evenings at his home for the group that attended annually. Many of you old-timers would know who was usually in attendance at those events. On one such occasion, his brother and sister-in-law were there and mixed with the group. After everybody departed that evening, his sister-in-law said, "So that was the potato mafia." Well, tonight Ken is very proud to officially be inducted into the potato mafia. I extend my congratulations to the fellow inductees, Drs. Mike Thornton, Greg Porter, and Russ Ingham. I know them all, and Russ was an exceptionally valued colleague during my time in Klamath Falls. Let's see. With best wishes for future success in the PAA, with warm feelings for the many good friends I made in this association, and with hopes that I will see or hear from some of you in the future, I'm eternally grateful for a long and rewarding relationship with the North American potato industry.
Thank you, Brian. We have one last HLM tonight, and I'll have Nora Olson come on up and talk about Michael Thornton.
All right, it is a great honor for me to present and be the nominator for Mike Thornton. So, how many people out there have ever seen a presentation by Mike? Raise your hand. How many people have ever, keep them up. How many people have ever read a newsletter, magazine article, journal article? How many people just know him? Keep them up. How many people want to know him now? Everybody, probably all hands are up. So really, I don't need to go into a lot of detail about Mike's career because I think everybody out there knows it. They've read about it, they've interacted with him, they've had the opportunity to really see what he has been able to really provide to the industry, to our organization. And but I do want to give a few highlights because that's appropriate for me to do that. But a few parts of it was that Mike actually has had about 40 years of a career in the potato industry. But what's really amazing is that really it did start when he was 14 years old. That's not counting, that's beyond the 40 years. The 40 years he is actually in a career for potatoes. But he was 14 years old when he attended his first PAA meeting. So he probably wasn't out in the pool with all the other kids. He was probably in the back of the meeting, taking down notes, so someday he knew that he could integrate that into the rest of his career. So it started very young for Mike. But you can see that just how entrenched he's been in for the potato industry and especially this association. Now, if you look at his bio, really a big bulk of the bio is just a list of all the committees, being a president for the PA, being on the editorial committees. I mean, it's a long list of things that he has contributed and been a part of in the PAA. And you still, in this meeting in the last couple days, who has his hand up, raising his hand to be in another committee? Who's always going to just keep being involved in the association? So it never stops. It's going to be a really long list by the time you really retire. A few other things, too, is that I'm always so amazed by Mike remembers everything. He may saw somebody give a presentation somewhere. So we may be talking about some potato issue and he goes, oh, you need to look at that 1968 newsletter that somebody wrote, probably Hugh Murphy or something, wrote about something, and he remembers it. And he's constantly wanting to integrate the past, but is always so eager to find out what's going on in the future. Maybe we need to rewrite the book on some of this. Maybe it's keep going and moving forward. We have a running joke, too, because you'll have your data set and you're not quite sure, how should I look at this? How should I graph it? What's going on? So those of you out there that might remember the commercial from the 70s and 80s, the Life cereal commercial, give it to Mikey. He'll know. Well, so we have added on kind of another part of that. So give it to Mike because he has such a different way of looking at data. You're like, wow. That is brilliant. I didn't even think about to either present it that way or look at that data that way. So I've always appreciated that. So I'm not going to go into too much further. Give some time to Mike to tell us a little bit more. But I've just really appreciated being a colleague of Mike's. He has been just a remarkable colleague, and it's been fun. So, congratulations, Mike, and thank you for everything you've done for the industry. You really have been a true friend to myself, to the industry, and as written here, you've been a true family member to the PAA. So thank you.
Well, I wrote a few notes, but I probably won't use them. So, you know, I had the privilege of introducing Nora in 2019 when she became an HLM. So it seems really appropriate to be back up here the next time we got to do this live and in person. So thank you, Nora, for the nomination. Thank those of you who wrote letters of support for my nomination. Thank you, PAA, for this award, but more importantly, thank you for this. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for getting us together. I've been to 36 or 37 PAA meetings. I still look forward to it every year. I still get so much out of it, still enjoy it like it was the first one. So thank you. Speaking of that kind of history with PAA, the first meeting I went to voluntarily without my parents dragging me along was 1985. And I remember, I don't know if it was that meeting or the next one, but I met an honorary life member. His name was John Niederhauser. And hopefully some of you recognize that name. John was a consummate scientist, and he was an icon in potato science. I mean, he had done stuff all over the world that had an impact on potato production. And I remember, you know, I sure must have thought, there is no way I will ever find myself on a list with John Niederhauser. Just won't happen. Well, you know, as we went through the program today, or this week, you know, they had the list of HLMs. And again, I look at that list. It includes 3 of my family members. I am in awe of every single person on that list. I don't know how I got here, but so that's the question I pondered the last couple of weeks. How does a guy who might just be the 4th best potato scientist in his family, which is not a bad thing, end up with a career like this? You know, that's a really good question. Well, for me, it's been a number of blessings over a number of decades. I want to just share a couple of them with you tonight. It started with mentorship. And our father is an example of a person that was lucky enough to do something he loved and call it work. That's really a great thing. Depending on your perspective, you could say he found a job and did it the way he loved it, you know, but either way, the thing that he did by example was he loved his work, but more importantly, he loved the people he did it with. He loved especially the growers that he got to work with. And that's a really powerful example for everybody in this room. If you don't have a mentor like that, I hope you find one, and I hope you get the opportunity to be a mentor like that to somebody. That followed on very quickly in my graduate programs by my 2 graduate advisors. Milt Workman and Bob Dwelly were people that came to work every day to do potato science, and they did it with a smile on their face. They never said that, hey, potato science should be fun, but their attitude said that every day. And one of the sayings in my program when it's a tough day is like, you know, if we're not having fun, we're not doing this right. Because potato science should be fun. If you'd have asked the 5-year-old Mike Thornton what he wanted to do when he grew up, you'd have got a 2-part answer. A, why do I have to grow up? Because being a 5-year-old kid's the best gig ever. And B, I want to do something where I can play in the dirt every day. So here we are, 6 decades later almost, and I still haven't grown up, and I still get to play in the dirt every day. How can that not be fun? It's the best job ever. The second thing has to do with an abundance of determination. And you may wonder where that came from. I wonder where it comes from sometimes, but if you know any of the 5 Thornton siblings, you know we are as stubborn as the day is long. You know, that I'm not a geneticist, but that's a population, an F1 population of 5 with 100% gene expression, so it must be a dominant trait. My father will claim that he had absolutely nothing to do with that, so it must be my mother's fault. And so, you know, probably due to her German heritage, but I think just because she could. She passed that gene on to every single one of us. But she made sure that we knew that stubbornness by itself is not that great a characteristic, but you combine stubbornness with a sense of purpose and it becomes determination. Determination to finish everything you start and to do it to the best of your ability. So thank you, Mom, for that. Our mom is incredible. Thank you, Carol. My potato career, in my estimation, started about 1978 when I worked on a potato farm out in the Columbia Basin. So you can imagine over that period of time, you get a chance to work with some really incredible colleagues. People that are at universities, but also people in industry that really have an impact on you every day. And that list is way too long to go into a lot of names, but there are 3 people from the University of Idaho that I want to name tonight that have had an especially big impact on my career, and 2 of them are here. One is Nora, obviously, Bill Bowl, and then Phil Nolte. The thing those 3 people did for me, besides being great friends, is they were not afraid to challenge me. We would get a project going and they would say, hey, I think Mike could do this part of it. So they had more faith in my ability than I had in myself. They were not afraid to challenge me. And because of that, I developed talents that I didn't know I had. And again, I would wish for everybody in here that you have colleagues that challenge you and that you challenge your colleagues in that way so they can find talents they didn't know they had. There is also a group of colleagues that I work with that are called graduate students, technicians, and at the University of Idaho we call them temporary help. And I hate that term because it sounds like if they screw up you can fire them that second. But these are people who in some cases have worked for me for more than a decade for some of my staff and have been just as passionate about every crazy project I came up with. Were willing to put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and for very little reward, they were working their butts off. And just, I hope you know how inspiring that is. So again, a huge number of people. I'm not going to call out a lot of names, but there's a couple I do need to call out. That would be my current staff, Ramsey Portner, Darren Beck, and Oksana Morgan, and a special award to Bill Burig because he tried to break the fun barrier every day. He was my technician and graduate student, so thank you, Bill. And then finally, my amazing wife. She puts up with that determination, and it probably comes across as stubbornness a lot of the time, and just rolls with it, and tolerates it. More than that, she takes all the chaos that comes with that and at the end of the day makes it make sense, and I wouldn't want to do it without her. So thank you, hon. So thank you all, and let's go back to having some fun.
Good job. Let's give all of our honorary life members one more round of applause.
That's just wonderful. Really want to also thank the HLMs for all the contributions that they've made to the organization and to the industry. I've learned so much from all of you, and really thank all the HLMs for their contributions. So I'd like to recognize our 2022 hosts. That would be Nina Zydak. Thank you so much, Nina, for having us here in Missoula, getting this organized, and it's just beautiful here in Missoula. I know I've been in this building for most of the week, but I look forward to the seed tour tomorrow. And also thank you to your assistant, Carly Hughbanks. I look forward to visiting the farm. And I'd like to ask if you could come up and have a few words for us as the host. So Nina Zydak, I'm going to give you a round of applause right now.
So thank you, Helen, and thank you everybody for coming here and making this such a great meeting, for sharing your knowledge with everyone else. And I'm just, in awe of actually getting to attend my first PAA summer meeting and getting to know more of you face to face and learning more from you. It's been an incredible opportunity. The thing about this job is I'm very, very blessed to not only live in Montana, but to work for Montana seed potato growers. And they are the reason that I can be here today. They are all working today. They are irrigating their fields. They are roguing their crops, ensuring that they are the best quality possible for this entire industry. So that's why they're not here today. They're out doing their job to give me this great opportunity to be here. Also my staff, they are currently running the lab. We've got kids out picking leaves in the field and kids actually doing a lot of our testing in the lab right now. And so they are the only reason that I can be here today, because they are getting the good work done to produce Montana seed potatoes for this entire industry. And so thank you for coming. I hope some of you get to enjoy a little bit more of Montana, and please come back. If you ever want to come and tour our program or learn more about our program, just give me a call, and we can set you up with more possibilities in Montana. So.
Okay. Now, this is a very exciting time. For me this evening, it's called Passing the Gavel. Jeff Miller, come on up. I can't tell you what an honor it was to serve you, and how great it was to work with this wonderful Vice President, Jeff Miller. And I know he's going to be a great president for you. Jeff, here is your gavel.
Now, don't go too far. In fact, Helen, please come back up here. We have a nice plaque to recognize Helen Ty as now the newest past president of the PAA. And we have more. I was preparing for this, AMR is so wonderful. They help remind me everything that we need to do, and they said, you should think of some gift. And so I started thinking about that, and I was visiting with my wife about this. And my wife says, well, what kind of gift do you think she would like? And it's a strange question, knowing my past gift-giving experiences with my wife, that she would think I would know something good to give. So she actually did some brainstorming on this and put together a little a package. Some of these are Idaho themed. I'm not going to show them all, but I wanted to show. We have several like potato candy, potato earrings. We have the Spuddy Buddy, and also a two-way reversible apron that's all out of potato material.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you so much. Like I said before, this has really just been so fun and such an honor to have served you as your president, and I want to thank everyone for their support. And I want to also say that I encourage everybody to get involved. It is something that's been a real highlight for me, for my career, for my life, and I will always look back at this year as being one of the best things that I've ever done. And so thanks everyone, and Jeff, I'm very, very excited about this gift. And I thank you and your wife for all the thoughts that you had and consideration that you had for this. So I depart from this position and leave you in excellent hands.
Before we get to our last, I wanted to thank all of you for being here and making this a wonderful meeting. To the students, to all the professors, everyone who has been here for AMR. We've just had a wonderful meeting. It has been good to be back in person. Just a brief story. This theme has been hit on several times. When I first got to the University of Idaho as a potato pathologist, I was taking the position. I was not replacing Jim Davis. And if any of you know Jim, he's an HLM, a long-time attendee of these meetings. He always sat in the front row, and I believe he always picked a defective chair, because as soon as the presentation was done, he was bouncing up and down on his seat like there was something poking him. And as a graduate student, Jim terrified me. He was probably one of the scariest individuals I was just completely intimidated. And I had only been on the job there in Aberdeen for a few days, and it was getting close to 5 o'clock. I'm pushing to try to get things done and go home. Jim comes into the office, and there's no escape. He walks in and he says, "I want to talk to you." And I was attending a soil fungus conference in Reno, Nevada, and he had heard that I was going to drive. That's about a 9-hour trip. And he said, "I'd like to ride with you." And I sat there thinking, what excuse can I generate that would sound reasonable? And the only thing that stammered out of my mouth was, "Sure." And so shortly after that, I got to spend about 18 hours in the car with Dr. Davis. He was a wonderful individual. And I only shared that because as I came into PAA early on in my career, I was extremely intimidated by many of these individuals. Some who've gotten the awards tonight. I just looked up, like Mike said, you look up to these people and think these are such good people, and they are good people. And that's what makes PAA so great. It is like a family. So all of you who are just starting, the wonderful thing about this meeting, you can rub shoulders with all of these good people and learn from them. And so I invite all of you back. In just a moment, we're gonna close by hearing from Ryan Barrett, an introduction or an invitation to come to the meeting next year. I would hope that all of you would come and bring a friend. My invitation is find someone new you can invite to join PAA this year and bring him with you to PEI. Ryan.
Merci, Jeff. Vous êtes tous invités à Île-de-Prince-Édouard l'été prochain pour la PAA. Oh, sorry, wrong script. That was just for Emmerich, right? Okay. So, my name is Ryan Barrett. I am the Research and Agronomy Specialist for the Prince Edward Island Potato Board. I am very happy to invite you all to PEI next year. It has been a while since we have had the pleasure of hosting PAA and PEI in 1997, since we were able to have you. So we're very much looking forward to having a big group of potato researchers and agronomists and graduate students from across North America and beyond to come to Canada's Food Island. That's how we brand Prince Edward Island. We are a leader in creating nutritious food, delicious food, and food experiences. Of course, at the core of that is the potato industry. We are Canada's largest producer of potatoes. We are the largest acreage of potatoes in Canada, and we're the third largest jurisdiction in North America in terms of acreage of potatoes. We've specialized in potatoes since the 1700s in Prince Edward Island. And agriculture is the #1 industry in our province. And tourism is number 2. So if that isn't 2 good reasons to come to PAA in Charlottetown, I don't know what it would be. We are Canada's smallest province and smallest population. We're leading the country, however, in economic growth. And we love to party. We love to show people a good time. And I'm going to show you a little video here in a second. At the core of everything in PEI is our closest to the sea, our closest to our history, our closest to our roots, to agriculture, to fishing, to our rural lifestyle. We are a small province that depends on its land and its ocean for its livelihood. We're an award-winning and leading producer of seafood, particularly mussels, oysters, and of course lobster. I guarantee you will have lobster as part of PAA next year. And if you want any more of these cow chips that are around that I think are next to crack, you have to come to PEI to get them. So we look forward to you coming and filling the suitcase with them. So that's what I have to say. I guess we'll roll that video if that's okay. See you in PEI.
Thank you, Ryan. Again, thank you all. That concludes our PAA 2022 meeting.